This is part 3 of our story series. If you have not seen part 1 or part 2, I will leave a link in the description. Today's topic is going to be basically adrenaline involving medical situations. So we've got 3 stories to tell. We'll try not to be too drawn out because it is actually pretty cold here this evening, or pretty cool anyway.
It is chilly.
So I guess I'll go first with my story. So I used to work at a place, and I was kind of the only one there that day in my department. And it's not necessarily that I was really in charge, but if something had to be done, it kind of fell to me because I was the only one there. So there was kind of an emergency, and what would happen is if there was any kind of medical emergency, since it was a campus, there was people who would stay on campus called a host, and they lived on campus for like 4 or 6 months at a time, and they were kind of in charge of handling those issues, because if someone did need to go to the hospital or something like that, they could just take them straight on. Well, that fell under our department. No one was there, and I don't remember if they couldn't get a hold of the host or what, but they called me, and then they said the host will meet you there, and you just need to go on. And so I drove over there, and it was in housing, you know, so I went in the place where these people were staying. I mean, I didn't know, I had no idea what was going on. And I just kind of started calling out like, you know, hello, stating my name, and I'm here to help. And it was a woman, and she was a diabetic, and she was very sick because she didn't have her medicine, and it just so happened that the person who was rooming next to her was a nurse. So the nurse was very calm. She said, here's what's happening, but this is like really dangerous. We have to get her to the emergency room. And I said, okay, we'll do what we can. The host is on his way. And she said, no, we have to go now. I said, okay, my car's out front. We'll go. This lady was like very weak because she did not have her medicine. And so it was super scary. And I had never been in a situation like that. Really never have since then. And like I had tons of adrenaline, like trying to figure out what do I do. So I was helping this woman down the hallway. Me and this lady were practically carrying her, and by the time, it was a long hallway, and by the time we got to the end of the hallway, the host was there, and I was so relieved to see him, just to have someone else help me in this situation. We got her out to the car, and we had a hard time putting her in the car, and at that point, you know, me and the host had kind of said, we should call an ambulance. Let's call the ambulance. You know, we're not far from the hospital. And the nurse was kind of like, no, I think it's okay. Let's just put her in the car. And I'm like, I don't know what to do. But then we got her to the car, and she's like, I'm going to be sick at my stomach. She fell over. She was sick at her stomach. Then she said she couldn't breathe. Oh my gosh, I was petrified. As soon as I heard her say she couldn't breathe, I thought, this woman is going to die on our hands. I was so scared. That's still probably the most scared in any situation I have ever been in, because I thought, what are we going to do? And then the nurse said, you need to call the ambulance. And I could not work my phone. I got out my cell phone, which was like one of the first smartphones I had. So it was like really a crappy phone. And I got out my phone, and it's like I could not open my phone because I was shaking so bad, and I was so flipped out. I was like, how do I open my phone? How do I open my phone to call? And so, which sounds silly, but
no, it's not. I've been in a situation like that, thinking I need to call 911, but I'm like, and what is this brick of technology in my hand?
Yeah. So I did call 911, and the service there is spotty, unfortunately. But like I was so shaken, it was so hard to talk, and so I kind of walked off a ways, and I was explaining to them where we were at and the situation. And then by that time, they got her in the car, and they said, no, just tell the ambulance no, we're going on. So I was like, I'm so sorry, but the situation, you know, we don't need you anymore. And that was the only time I had ever still had to call 911, and it was so scary. After that, I just like went back to the office and was just like in a complete daze, and just felt like I needed to sleep for 2 days because it was so scary. That's really still, I would say, like the scariest situation I've ever been in. But she was fine. She got to the hospital. She got her medicine. She was back that night, and she was fine. But that was terrifying. So that was my story. Let's tell the story about college first, and then we'll kind of share telling the last story.
You mean about the kid that passed out?
Yes, that kid. Bless his heart.
Yeah, I mean, he might, whoever you are, if you're watching, I don't even hardly remember what you look like or what your name was, except that you sat in front of us and you were really sweet. So we were in college, and me and Corey were always together. So we were together in this class, and we all had to do presentations, and it was a health class. So, I mean, it really couldn't have gotten easier. I mean, you just picked something like, we all picked some sort of...
I had deep vein thrombosis.
Yeah, and I had COPD. We were all picking a sickness and an illness and doing a presentation on it. And it was just part of the class where you have to do That was part of it, a presentation to pass the class. And so our teacher was very nice, but he didn't speak good English. And so it was hard to understand him a little bit, but we did our best and we understood what he wanted us to do. Very nice teacher. So we get in there and it's presentation time. It's presentation week. And so it was a twice a week class. It was like Tuesday, Thursday. And so he said between both days, we should all be able to get our projects in. And there was probably, there's every bit of 20 of us in there, I would think, don't you think?
Oh, yeah.
And we're in the bottom floor of the gymnasium, and it's kind of like not even really exactly a classroom. It's just a room that they stuck us in because they didn't have nowhere to put us. So we're down there, and do you remember being able to hear the basketball players while we were in there?
Yeah.
Because we were next to the basketball court.
Right off the basketball court.
Right, it was somewhat distracting. But there's this boy that sits in front of us, and I'm like, I can tell you what the back of his head looks like, because that's pretty much all I ever saw. And it was time for him to do his presentation. And so we sat on the back row, me and Corey, next to some exchange students. Ramin, nice kids. We were sitting back there.
Germany. Ramin was German.
Yeah, and he also spoke broken English, but he was very nice. So this kid that sits in front of us goes up to give his presentation, and he doesn't even get halfway to the podium. And I'm like grabbing Corey, and she's like, stop touching me. What's going on? I'm like, this isn't right, Corey. This boy's gonna faint. I know he's gonna faint. I just got this. I wouldn't say premonition, but it was almost like a premonition. I knew before he got up out of his seat that there was going to be trouble. There's a boomer barking at us. Squirrel. Does not like our flannel. Anyway, he probably thinks that your scarf is one of his friends.
Yeah.
So this boy gets up to the podium, and he's like, hi, my name is whatever. You have to give your name. And I'm going to present on blah, blah, whatever. I don't remember what he was presenting on. And he's trying to get through this presentation, and he's getting slower, and he's getting quieter, and he's getting wider. Like, his face is so pale. And all at once, he kind of just stops talking, stares off into the mist, and slumps. And the podium catches him. My heart was like thudding, because I knew before he got up there, I thought, like, I should go up there and say, like, you shouldn't give this presentation because you're going to pass out. Let me hold your hand. You need to, it was like, that's what had me so, like, adrenalized and nervous.
Everyone was kind of right, like right when that happened, when he had that pause and didn't look right. I think
everybody was like stood up,
because everybody was kind of like ever so slightly reaching forward. Not that we could have caught him from our chairs, us in the back row, but we'd all kind of like.
And so 2 boys finally did run up there and get him, because he could only stand on that podium for so long before he finally fell backwards. So they got him, and they like practically carried him out of the room, and it was sad.
Poor thing.
And I know he was embarrassed, so I just felt so bad for him.
Scary to watch because you could just see it in slow motion. Yeah. You're like, is this boy going to be okay?
No.
He was fine after that.
So, but after the fact, me and Corey hadn't give our presentations, and I got it in my head. I somehow got it in my head because I felt connected to this boy that it was going to happen to me. I was like, I knew that it was going to happen to this boy, and that's how I know it's going to happen to me. And I did mine on COPD, and I was like, I was so... I've cried for 2 more days because 2 days till I had to give my presentation. I was terrified. I just knew that was going to happen to me. And I got up there, and I bet you know, they tell you it has to last so long. I bet you it was like, done. Done. I was moving.
5 minutes.
I was like, I talk fast, I eat fast. I was on it because I wanted it to be over with. So the guy was okay. I'm sure he was fine. And they didn't make him do the rest of his presentation. He got barely into it. And it was over. So at least they didn't make him do it. The teacher realized that A for effort. He really did try, and he really couldn't do it.
All right, we got one more story. So this is about, and we can both tell this.
I'm not even sure what this one is.
Especially your part. This is about our wisdom teeth. So we in 2016 had our wisdom teeth out, and the dentist had been telling us for years you need them out, but the dentist kind of tell everyone that, and mom and dad were like, oh, well, I don't know, maybe don't worry about it, but then they were really like, no, you have to have them out.
It's crunch time.
It's crunch time. So we went to a specialist in Blue Ridge, and they did x-rays and said, he was also a German man, and he said, you have very large teeth, unusually large, both of you.
Yeah.
So, okay, that's good.
He was like, not only are your wisdom teeth large, but you have big teeth, and your wisdom, this is going to be, basically he was like, this is no good.
Yeah, so we were actually going to go on a trip that summer to Ohio to see our friends to play music, and they were like, you can't go, like, you have to get these out. This is because of the nerve, and you could see it on the x-ray, the nerves that run down in there, their teeth were getting so big that it was almost touching them, and they were like, that could make it really dicey getting them out. So like a month later, we had to get our wisdom teeth out, and the worst part of it, the whole thing for me, was the anticipation. As soon as I knew I had to have them out, I was petrified. Every single moment of every single day, I could hardly eat or sleep. I was so scared.
I had like a huge adrenaline dump in the office when they said you had to have them out. I'm like, oh God, take them out now before I change my mind.
Yeah, and if I even just so much thought about it, I felt that way. So that was like a tough month. And so we go the morning of, like super early. We have to drive to Blue Ridge. So it's like 30, 40 minutes from here. And back to back, all 4 of them cut and busted out. Katie goes first, and I'm sitting in the office. I mean, I'm just thinking, I'm gonna come undone. I'm gonna run away. So we were like 20 when we had this done. So like definitely grown enough to know better to be like this.
Behave.
Yes, but I was so scared, and they had a Bible there, and I'm like reading through this Bible, and then all of a sudden I hear this air compressor kick on, and I'm like, I'm looking at Mom and Dad like, why is there an air compressor kicking on? And they're like, it's nothing, don't worry about it. But they have to bust your teeth out. Like none of ours really, or at least none of mine had come through. They have to bust them out in pieces.
Yeah, and the air compressor feeds the little jackhammer that they use to bust your teeth out.
So then while you were in there, whoever is taking care of you or driving you home, they want you to watch this little video. And I wanted to go with my parents. I didn't want to sit there by myself. And after the fact, Mom and Dad were like, the nurse was kind of like, she's not had them out yet. She doesn't need to see this. And so we go in this tiny room of a closet, and the TV's like this big, and it's just telling you, how to not get dry sockets and how to be careful and all this stuff. And so I'm watching this and I can hear this air compressor, and I'm like, I'm gonna die. I'm gonna have a heart attack.
I was done knocked out in there.
Yes, so they come and got me, and I was so scared. I went in there, and it's basically just a glorified dentist chair. Mm-hmm. It's literally,
it is.
It's only a dentist chair that sets up higher and doesn't lean you back as far on your head. The nurse was real nice and talking to me real sweet.
She was very sweet.
Yes.
If you're watching this, you have beautiful black hair, and thank you for being nice.
Yes, they were very sweet, but I was so scared. And I remember I had never had laughing gas, never have since, but I remember our cousin who had it said,
huff that stuff is what she said.
Yes, she's like, breathe it in as deep as you can. So as soon as they put that on, I thought, all right, April, here goes. And for like 1 second, I thought this was supposed to help my nerves. And then from then on, I was like, I think like I blacked out for a second, and then I kind of come back to, but it's like everyone was really far away, and I couldn't hear them that well. But for me, that was good, because right before they did that, I was like, it's like I need a minute. And I sat there like that, and I was contemplating, can I run? And then I was like, no, my parents will kill me if I do that. That was it. And then the only thing I remember after that is waking up in the bed. I was very drowsy, but you see these funny videos of people who were like hallucinating and saying really silly stuff. I knew exactly where I was at. I knew exactly what had happened, but it's like I was so sleepy, I could not wake up. So like I was in this bed, and when I woke up, I realized Katie was in this other little outpatient bed, and my dad was kneeled down, like right by my face, like, Corey, like freaked out. And in my head, I'm thinking, Dad, I have a mouthful of gauze. I just had my teeth ripped out. Like, give me a break. And he was so flipped out, but I was so tired.
So let's pick up from my point of view. So pretty much all the same stuff up until that point. They take me in there. I volunteered to go first. I think April said to huff it. I'm going to huff it because it'll calm you down. Well, little did I know, I'm allergic to it. And there would have been no way to know until I huffed a bunch of it.
You had never had it before.
No. And so they strap it onto your nose. For one, I'm like, that does not work for me because I'm somewhat claustrophobic. And so I'm like, well, it's going to be okay. So I just take a deep breath, and all at once I'm like, this is a problem. I just felt like I could not breathe. That was the worst part of all of it for me, was that. Feeling like I was suffocating.
I bet other people are allergic and they'll comment.
I know, probably. Finally, through the haze of laughing gas, I said, I can't breathe. This isn't working for me. And I heard someone say, okay, well, I'll switch off the nitrous oxide and put it onto oxygen. And I could tell a difference when they did that.
You were afraid you were going to die because of the
laughing gas.
And I was afraid I was going to die because my nerves were so bad.
I could not breathe. My heart was like... And so the last thing I remember is this dog. I felt this big weight plop down on my chest. And
it's
he
like
had
the mat with all the tools.
Like a big rubber mat. And he just plops it down, which actually the weight was somewhat comforting. It is just like a thick rubber mat. And then I look over and I see the lady giving me, she's like, hold this ball. And I'm like, I can't hold the ball. I'm like passed out. She's like, squeeze the ball. You're not squeezing it. And that's something else with me. When I do anesthesia or something like that, I get real mad. I get super angry and super cranky. And I was like trying to tell that lady, listen here, I can't do that. And I wake up in the outpatient bed. and I open my eyes and I know what's happened and I know where I am, but I just can't talk. I can't talk because what's in my mouth, but I just can't talk yet. And the nurse is really nice. She must be able to read my mind. You know, she comes over there and she's like, you're done. You did great. It's okay. They're going to bring your sister out. Just relax. And I was like, I gave her a thumbs up. That's all I could do. So here comes Corey out the other door. And they're walking her out and her eyes are like that big. And she's like, she's got her hands like that. I don't know why. She's like, and they just like take her over there and she just like real gently sits down and like falls over and lays down in this bed. And that's when Dad goes over there and she's just
was Dad
like
back there when I walked out?
No.
Okay.
By the time you got down, laid down on that bed is when they come in there. And Mom came over to me and Dad comes over to you. And Corey's just like, and won't really say anything. And Dad's like just up in her face and in panic. Like, what are we going to do about this one, Tipper? Because I'd been laying there for 45 minutes right? Awake.
So you had a lot of time to get awake.
Well, I wasn't actually awake. I was in and out of it. But I was talking. Because even a bloody mouth was not going to stop me from talking.
You wanted fried chicken.
Yeah, I was like, give me some food. Let's get out of here.
I remember hearing that. And I remember I always have chapstick in my pocket. And I was pointing to that.
We kept doing this.
I wanted my dad to get my
Dad
chapstick
was like,
out so
he was like panicking more. Like, what is this? And Corey wanted him to put chapstick on her. So
because after that, I mean, your lips are, they've been through the ringer.
Beat to death. So then it's time to leave. And they take you out the back. They send you out the back. They won't let you go out of the waiting room. For one, because like you probably terrify the people who are in there waiting to have this done. And it's just more efficient in one way, out the other. So they stand us up and they're like, they're going to walk us out. And they're like, be careful. There's a step down. And I'm like, I'm not 80. You don't need to tell me that. But I get to the step down and I'm like, whoa.
How far is this?
Yeah, like trying to fall. So we go and we get in this car. And this was a car. Mom doesn't even have this car. This was a horrible car. You could not trust it.
Yes, I got in the front seat and I laid the seat back.
And I got in the back seat and it just sets up. Dad hadn't even rolled the key and I was like,
this is not going to work.
Like, I said that. I'm like, we have a problem. But it sounded more like, we have a problem. You know? And I was like, so all at once, I was so sick to my stomach. I've actually, even the meanest, baddest, ugliest stomach virus can't compare to what that onset of nausea. I was like, oh, we're going to have a problem. We get driving down the road. We get a mile down the road and I'm like, stop the car. I'm going to throw up. Stop this car. If you don't want this car filled up, you better stop and let me throw up.
But from my point of view, so I was in the front and from my point of view, you were just kind of like, stop the car. Like you were barely talking. You were more just like, you looked really agitated. And that was the point when I turned around and looked at you. Like right after you said that, you were white as a ghost.
Even my lips were white.
It was scary. Like I've never seen anyone look that white. And you said that, and then poor Mom was sitting in the back, and she just like grabbed Mom's knee.
And passed out.
And just passed out. You're like, I'm going to be sick. And then you just slumped. And then you come back for a second. And you slumped. And you come back for a second.
Yeah.
And Mom and Dad, I don't know if you remember, but they were flipping
out. I remember hearing Dad say, like, what do we do? Like, what are we going to do?
I was scared too. But, like, looking back, I was a little bit more drowsy than I realized. I knew exactly what was going on. And I remember thinking this is really bad. But I was under such a fog that I was like, I'm not sure what to do. And Mom's like, Matt, take her back. So we got back on that was at a gas station 1 mile up the road. So we get back on the highway.
They just take me back.
And I remember like pushing the hazards, or maybe Dad did. And I remember like laying back thinking, this really stinks. How fast are we going? And like
we were going like 90.
Yeah, like looking at the speedometer, it was like 90 because they were so afraid. They thought, is there something wrong?
I mean, the bad thing about all that is I just knew that I was going to throw up, and so like Dad
stopped.
You
never did though, did you?
No, and I knew I was going to pass out, but I just couldn't really tell anybody because
you were full of gauze and
that's why I grabbed Mom's leg, and Mom's like, you just squeezed it so hard, and then that was it. We get back, but the problem was the whole time once I did when I would come back to some sort of consciousness, my vision was gone.
Oh yeah. And then like,
I lost my vision.
Then she's like saying, I can't like scream and she can't see. And Dad's
and I was like, I had my hand like this and I was like, that's not good. But I was like just drowsy enough where I was like, I just need to make sure my eyes are open. Mom, are they open? And she's like, they're open. And I'm like, I just touched my eye. I was like, they're open.
That was so scary. And they took you in the back and Katie was very cranky and she was like talking just very grouchy. And then I remember like thinking, they're going to take her in there and I don't get to go. And I was like,
they separated us.
I was like, no, all I could say was no separate. I did not want to be separated.
Screamed it because they were like, come on, let's get out of the car.
Like, I can't walk. I can't see.
I couldn't. And what had happened, this would explain what I was experiencing. They were like, why did she pass out like that? And they said that being under anesthesia like that and then not having time to, like, even though I had 45 minutes to lay down, I went from laying down to just sitting straight up, and my blood pressure dropped. She said her blood pressure plummeted, and that's why she thought she was going to throw up. That's why she passed out. That's why she temporarily lost her vision. Because then when they brought me back in and they put me in one of those dentist chairs and laid me way back,
You were fine.
I was fine. My color came back. I mean, I felt as good as I could feel after having all 4 of my teeth cut out. Had I been sitting in the front seat, it probably wouldn't have happened. It could have possibly happened to Corey. That must be what it feels like for your blood pressure to plummet. I literally could not hold the weight of my body. I couldn't stand up. I couldn't even hold my head up.
So Dad, it took me all the way home, 40 minutes, and thank God we had a friend staying here, which I would have been okay by myself, I guess, but we had a friend staying here.
Thank you. You know who you are. We wouldn't have made it without you.
Yes, she was like, where's Katie and Tipper? It's like she thought it was a joke. And then the crappy thing for me about that was that y'all had the gauze. I didn't change my gauze for like ever, and it's just, as you can imagine, it just was not very good.
It was terrible. I mean, it was just a horrible experience. But by the time Dad came back, I had woke up enough.
And you were
and they said, they're like, put her in the front seat, lay the front seat back, she should be fine. But they also told me the next time, I hope there's never a next time, but if you ever have to have surgery again, you're going to have to tell them you're allergic, no laughing gas, and tell them you apparently need longer to lay
than like normal.
Yeah.
Mom and Dad said that took like 10 years off their life, but for me, the anticipation was still probably the worst. I mean, all that was scary, and it hurt so bad. Like, I remember waking up way up in the night, just sitting and holding my face, basically crying because it hurt so bad. But
yeah, I did.
After it was over and I was home to lick my wounds, I was fine. I was so scared, and I had spent like a month being so scared that after that was over, I was like, that's the biggest relief in my life. So anyways, those are some kind of medical stories with adrenaline there. Comment below and share your stories. As always, we're really enjoying doing these story series.
If anybody comments this, yes, I do know the Def Leppard song Adrenalize, the whole album. I just think that's so funny. That kind of would be the background of music of all of this. So
yeah,
somebody would mention it.
Yes, well, thank you for watching. Comment below like we said. Give this a like and subscribe if you want to see more of us. We never say that, but definitely hit the like button and subscribe to help us out.
And it's cold, so there's going to be more flannel.
Yes, more flannel. God bless you. See you at the next one.
Bye. Don't get your wisdom teeth cut out if you don't have to. Keep them.